Welcome to the Just Be Nice Project podcast with me, Josh Reed-Jones, discussing all things powerful positive impact, finding out how you can remove barriers to opportunity for others through insightful and hopefully interesting conversations covering honest, diverse, and sometimes neglected areas of discussion. We are, as always, seeking to create extraordinary positive change in the world by helping you make ordinary positive change as we help you help others. You've got through the intro, now hang in there for the good stuff, strap yourself in, turn it up, and as always, just be nice as we roll the show. Welcome to the Just Be Nice Project podcast once again. As we record this today, we respectfully acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are recording, the Bunwurrung and Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation, and we pay respect to their elders, past and present. You're here with me, Josh Reed-Jones, he, him, and today I'm catching up with musician, all-round creative, video director, and your favourite Carlton Draft bartender, Craig Johnson, he, him. How are you, mate? Thanks for coming in.
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh,
I forget I did that ad.
Yeah, I don't forget.
No, but the amount of people, it's surprising actually because it's an ad, like whatever. But I looked, in my opinion, probably a little bit different than I normally look, like how I look now.
Yep.
And I do actually get people, I had a guy, Dan Murphy, like a week ago, be like, hey man, were you a beer ad? And I'm like, the security ad. And I'm like, yeah, that's very well spotted.
Oh, like a random person?
Random. Yeah, no, I do. I get not many, but it's. I just find that bizarre because it's nothing. It's an ad.
It's just
I'm
ad.
on for like 2 seconds or something. It's
You
like
don't
it's
speak or anything, do you? You just...
No, I do the full ad. There's a 90-second version,
Okay.
and I'm on that heaps.
You'll be pleased to know my mum texts me every time you're in an ad
Does
on
she?
the telly.
That's funny.
Says,
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Craig on the telly.
Yeah, I got texts from mates at the grand final. Like, they must have given it a good flogging. So there you go.
Carlton Draft getting their money's worth.
Yeah.
Do you drink Carlton Draft?
When I drink with John Kendall, I drink Carlton
Yeah,
Draft.
yeah, that makes sense. We're in Melbourne now, and it's home, but you grew up in Tassie. What was that like back in the day?
It's probably grown quite a lot. If you go down there now, it's a bit more hip and a bit more hipstery and a bit more arty cool, I guess, ever since the creation of Mona from David Walsh. It was, it's hard to think back from the perspective of someone my age because you just remember it as a kid. I loved going to Eastland Shopping Centre, and now I go down there and I'm like,
It's the worst place you could possibly go.
It's the worst place you could probably go, yeah. So, but it hasn't changed in its beauty and its sort of serenity, like everything. I guess you go into the mall in the city, and it's just another, as Paul Kelly said, every fucking city's the same. So it's just a smaller version of other cities or whatever. But Tassie itself's unreal. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's the place I go to for. We've got a kid now, Georgie and I, so that makes it more. And family down there. My parents are down there, so that makes it, I guess, all the more relaxing in that area. But also too, just there's no traffic. People are pretty laid back. It's pretty wherever you look. Like if you live in the worst suburb of Greater Hobart, your view is you've got $1 million view pretty much no matter where you live.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Do
Great.
you get out into the rest of Tassie when you're there, or do you just hang out in Hobart?
Nah,
or
pretty much just hang out at mum and dad's, to be honest with you. But
where they cook you meals and stuff like that?
yeah,
Do all the fun mum and dad stuff.
Well, yeah, they're not epic foodies, but it's a very welcoming and relaxing environment, their place. So it's great. And we try and do a day trip here and there if we go down for 2 weeks, whatever. But generally speaking, it's just sort of just hanging, not putting too much on the roster.
Well, if you can hang until about 4:30 in the afternoon, then everything's closed and you're under no obligation to go anywhere else.
Exactly.
In Tassie once.
Sea breeze kicks in and away you go.
Everyone calls it a day.
Yeah.
You've done a few things lately on the in the lens side of the camera, on the ads and bits and pieces. Got a few video clips that you've just popped out and stuff. But you actually do a fair bit of work on the non-visible side. Videography is like a big deal now in various forms because it's so accessible. It's so easy to broadcast your own content and do those sort of things. But you've been doing it since before that was the case. You've had a hand on that sort of space. How'd you learn? How'd you get into that? Into the behind the camera stuff?
I got into that, excuse me, sort of, I don't know, I've always had a bit of a natural thing out of it because what I learned, I worked in telly for 10 years, but that's not where I learned to shoot really, because the stuff that I shoot now and that I always sort of did music video clip wise or whatever, you'd never shoot that in commercial telly. So I worked at Channel 10 from 2001 to 2011 or whatever. It was about 10 years. Started out staging and then did a bit of what they call studio operating. So they teach you to floor manage audio, cameras, whatever.
Sit on those cameras.
Yeah. So I worked in studio cameras. That was one of the more comedic jobs I've done in a while because I was low rung. So I was doing just news. So, you know, the good studio guys, they'll shoot shows and music segments and whatever, which we did a little bit of. The bottom rung guys got to do 2 shows that had music around midnight or after midnight, I think it was called.
Yep.
But the Adelaide news was what we did. So that was basically point the camera directly at the news presenter, and then when the director told you to put a window in, you'd sort of just turn slightly to the right, like 2 inches to the right, and that was it. You did that for an hour.
Yeah.
So it was pretty funny. People would be like, "Oh, sick, man! You work in cameras," and because I was 22 or something, you'd be like, "Yeah." So if you wanted to. If you were talking to people who knew what they were doing, you'd be like, yeah, no, it's Adelaide News, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, okay, cool. But if you were trying to impress people, they'd go, yeah, I work in cameras. Yeah, it's a bit of a big deal. But I got into that job through pouring beer, actually. I was working at Brady O'Reilly's on Chapel Street, and the staging manager, Terry Wilcock, who was this...
Shout out, Terry.
Yeah, shout out to Terry. He basically just took a bit of a punt and I've texted him recently, but I don't know if his number's changed, but I keep meaning to call him because my life, and not that I have the greatest life in the world, but I like my life and I'm a happy sort of guy. And it's kind of because of him in a way, because he was a friendly guy, a real grumpy Larry Davidness about him. And I found that quite funny. And then after serving him beer, he'd come in and have a beer at lunch, almost all the time with his buddy Dave, the painter. And then I worked up, he had the Channel 10 shit on, but we just sort of got on pretty well. And after a few months or whatever, I was just like, hey man, is there any work going? And he's like, not really, but there was another guy there, an actor who worked on the panel, staging. And he just landed some gig, I think, got a full-time gig on. So he stopped doing the panel. He said, if that guy stops, or when that guy stops, you can come in and do the panel once a week. Which is just you go in there, I think we started at 2 p.m. in the Arvo and we'd set the set. You basically have a break. And then once the show was finished at whatever it was, 11 o'clock or 10:30 or whatever, we'd go in there and strike the set.
They had music on the panel?
They did,
That was a good show.
Yeah, it was a good show. Those guys, Working Dog, everything they do well. They're all clever people.
So are the people in doing that work then more technicians than creative?
What do you mean?
For the people that are operating the cameras in the move it 2 inches to the right sort of fashion, or is there a mix of people like, I am creative, but I've just got a hand on this industry in this fairly non-creative capacity at the moment?
It is fairly non-creative, but there is a bit of creativeness in it. As in, when those guys work in the panels, when they shoot a music show, basically the director, the band starts playing in rehearsal. Most directors will be sort of like, what do you got for me, guys? There's 3 cameras, and then all 3 cameras will just sort of just start doing their own thing, and the director will be like, camera 1, great, that's good. Camera 2, and then he'll start directing them.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the camera people will just produce good shots, and the director doesn't. All he's got to do is call them. He doesn't have to actually direct them.
He doesn't have to tell them what to do.
Might, sometimes he will, sometimes he won't. But yeah, generally speaking, it's like a film set. There's a small body of people who are being the creatives, and everybody else just does what they're told in order for order, so that there's not just
too many cooks.
Yeah, and just a big mess of stuff happening.
Had you done anything behind a camera before that? Just on your own? No, it's the first time.
Oh, no, that's not true. I videoed dance concerts in Tassie for my mum's a dance teacher. So
that makes that almost your longest serving job then.
Yeah,
you just came back from filming your dance concert for your sister.
Yeah, so Terry gave me a run, and then after, as everything, I just started doing 1 shift a week for a few months, and then that became, I come and do a few mornings for Good Morning Australia and whatnot, and in staging, and then all of a sudden I was doing sort of full-time hours there. I like every job, you meet some outstanding people and you meet some lunatics, and then I started working in news, and then, a few years later, I don't know, 7 years later, I just had a gutful, and I stayed in the job for about 2 or 3 years too long, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Just working in news.
Just really drove it into the ground.
Yeah, well, The catalyst for me to get out was that I did a gig with the ACO and we went away for 5 weeks.
Australian Chamber Orchestra.
That gave me the break, the thing to go, you know what? I don't need to do this anymore. It's like, cool, I do want to do something different. The thing that disheartened me was I've been listening to a lot of long form talking now in the form of podcast, and people talking about it. I could never articulate what it was that I hated about commercial news, and that's it. It's the fact that they basically try and condense big topics into a 90-second package or whatever. And it's like, this probably needs more discussion.
Yeah.
And also, too, content, we'd get to work and basically the chief of staff would, not really, but in a nutshell, just listen to 3AW and whatever Neil Mitchell was running, we'd run those stories. And, in the later years especially, there's this show called The Wire, and the guy that wrote that, David Simon, he was a journo in Baltimore for years, and he wrote the show. It's an amazing, for anybody. Brilliant show.
Yeah, I studied at uni.
Yeah, and like just the characters in the fifth season when they go into the media side of things, and you see the old chief editor and the new journo coming in, and the new journo's just taking shortcuts. And I mean, obviously, it's dramatically played out, probably bigger than what goes on. But you just see, like, I don't know, just shit stories, man. You'd be doing shit stories. And I worked with some journos that were like just hacks I worked with some killer journos too, by the way, some really, really great people who were great journos.
Yep.
And just some other ones that were hacks. And when the opportunity came to do that trip away with the Chamber Orchestra, I think it was like 6 weeks all up. And I was like, I can just do this. So I just started playing music full time after that.
What year was that?
It was actually 2012. It was May 2012.
So, May 2012, you're transitioning to play music. You obviously were playing music beforehand, so I imagine there's some pretty shit band names in your discography and embarrassing things. So before we go 2012 on, you want to talk us through the music?
Mate, I'm very proud of my first band's name.
Oh, here we go.
Very proud. We were called Simba.
That's not too bad, actually.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. We all loved The Lion King. We were in grade 10. We just all literally started playing our instruments. We were awful. We were a Nirvana cover band, and we could play 2 other songs. We could play Gone Away by Offspring and Smoke on the Water.
Which you learned in music class.
Yeah, but I couldn't play the solo. I could do the intro bit. Then it'd just be Mess Town. One of our first gigs was at a barbecue, and the drummer fell off his stool because we were playing on pine bark, and the pine bark fell loose under him, and we were terrible.
So good. Gone Away. That's a blast from the past. So then from Simba, was that your only Tassie band?
Nah, well, that's why I moved to Melbourne, because I joined...
Ran out of bandmates.
I joined a band called Saucebox, which was a terrible name, spelled Source, like sauce.
Yeah, awesome.
So that was we thought that was pretty cool. But we won the Tassie Battle of the Bands, so we represented Tassie in the National Battle of the Bands.
The Triple J one?
No, the National Drug-Free Rockers.
Yep.
And with that we didn't win, but we won we were the Tassie winners, and we were like, right, let's move to Melbourne. So I didn't really know the guys in the band very well, so we'd been playing together for about, I don't know, maybe like 6 months to a year, and because their singer quit, so I joined the band because I was hanging out with the guitarist a bit. And then the guitarist and I hooked up with the drummer, and we did a 3-piece, and that's how we got into the drug-free Rockestead thing. And then our drummer quits. Then we went and rejoined Matt's band, basically. So I didn't know the guys that well at all, the drummer and the bass player, who are now really good mates.
Is Hilton one of those?
Yeah, Hilton's one of those guys. Yeah. So we moved. So we said, right, we'll move to Melbourne, and we all just rented a house over here, and we found a guitar player, and we started doing gigs. And I think about 9 months later, we just stopped. It all fell over. So
As they do.
They're now actually, Hilton's a full-time, he's still drumming. He plays with me with one of my projects, Delsinki now. And he also is an electrician. And Buo's actually a surgeon. He, the bass player, yeah.
It's not a very fine motor skill instrument, the old bass guitar.
No.
You'd imagine he'd play something a little bit fiddlier, like a harpsichord or a fiddle or something.
Yeah.
Melbourne's the place to be.
Yeah. And how about you, mate? You're drumming. Where did you start drumming?
At school, I didn't have a drum kit until I was like 20-something. So I could only play on my mate's drum kit in the high school band. one of the guy's younger brothers played drums, and they had a drum kit at his house, so we used to always have band practice there. Shout out to Josh and Ben. And I started at school, so I was like 11, year 7, and then I started playing guitar after my uncle was like, "Oh, you're playing the drums? Oh, so you're the bloke that hangs out with the musicians." And I was like, righto, I better pick up something that plays a few different notes as well. So
Is that your dad's brother?
it's like my dad's mate. You know, it was like one of those
And did he play in bands?
Yeah, they played together. Yeah, the two of them. So
what did he play?
Ted played a bunch of stuff. He still does. Played guitar and piano and things like that. And my old man was the same. Guitar, piano, trumpet, clarinet, bits and bobs. So we always had a lot of that around. But we never had anything big. We never had a drum kit or anything like that.
Yeah.
And instruments would come and go like as they got pawned off to pay bills and things like that as well. Yeah, I think in the end, usually there was just a guitar lying around. He tried to teach me once or twice, and I didn't get into it as a kid. And then I was filthy that I didn't.
Yeah.
When I was a bit older and then playing at school. What band name isn't a bit woeful until you're famous?
Started another band with Johnny Kendall and Brooke Taylor and a guy called Rob Hornbuckle and Damien Caffarella. They're all sort of, we're going to do a bluegrassy country kind of thing. We're going through the same problem at the moment, coming up with a band name. And everything you come up with, people are like, there'll be one person that's like, I'm not into that. And I'm like, the Beatles is a shit band name, really. Yeah. But because you know it as the Beatles and you know the songs, it's not a shit band name. Yeah. White Zombie, one of my favourite bands. That's a shit band name. Korn, awful. Metallica, corny. If you did that now. Yeah. Def Leppard. Yeah. What does that even mean? Yeah. So I just sort of go, So you've got like a few projects going on, you've got new projects happening. How hard is it to be creative all the time? I guess it's something that you have I don't know, lots of people are creative and maybe have jobs that don't allow them to utilise their creativity. I'm sort of lucky in that respect that I have got the time, I guess. Now that we've got a kid, it's a little bit harder. But creativity too, I guess, a little bit is in the eye of the beholder. Some people, it's like art, I guess. Some people value people's art as being something amazing, and sometimes people don't value other people's art at all. So I guess, and there's creative accounting. So Oh yeah, we love a creative accountant. So how hard is it to make a living then, as in a space that is, pretty creative? That's the thing. So I do lots and lots of different things to pay the rent, but predominantly music. But a lot of them are Tom Waits and Johnny Cash covers, just around the way to pay the rent, sort of thing. But the beauty of what I do in that aspect is I get to play with some hugely creative musicians. So I provide a bed for them, and guys like Dion Harini, James McCooley, John Kendall, musical kings. They're at what they do. They're they're at the top of their field, and that makes what I do feel more creative. In that it's not the music I create, my music in whatever act I'm doing. That's my ultimate creation stuff, but that doesn't necessarily pay the bills. So going to a bar and playing Johnny Cash and Tom Waits to people with these other guys who get to musically paint all over the bass that is the chord progression and the words, that then makes what I do feel quite creative. It's a vibe. You're working with people. It's good. Doing what I do minus those musos, so doing a solo gig, that can become a bit of a job. You know, you just turn up to work and you do your thing. You'll have some good days, some bad days, like any job. But usually working with good musos, you can do almost anything because it sounds and it's musical and it sounds fluid and good. So how do you feel about those musicians that say stuff like, I want to play music all the time, but I would never just play covers? Well, it's a bizarre thing because once again, it's artistry versus musicianship. Like, so yeah, cool. No, I get that. I understand that people go, I don't want to play. After playing with these musicians, I really respect music a lot more. I know that sounds a bit sort of juvenile, but people that go to the con and the VCA and whatever school to learn their instrument, once they finish and they've done a few years playing, they've got that body of work behind them, the K's under the bonnet, they're good. Like, so the understanding of the craft is more. So then you get other people who can't really play the guitar to save themselves, but they just have an amazing ability to put words together and say things in a profound way. So yeah, that person that can do that, they don't want to be able to play. They don't need to play the other side of music because they're literally just being an artist. So that's cool. And it's very rare that people like that would judge that, because most of those people go, cool. Because when they play with good players, they realise that it's literally a completely different skill. If you have to go to a pub and play Jesse's Girl and throw your arms around me 500 times a night, that would do it. That's not really being a musician. So that would be sort of a bit soul destroying. But when you're not doing that, then I don't know. Music sort of. I've grown as a musician hugely in the last 6 years due to the fact of the people that I get to play with. So
much of it is collaborative because you're not doing it all on your own. Yeah. Whether you're collaborating with a dead singer-songwriter who wrote the song and it's in your hands, or you're collaborating with the people to the left and right of you on stage, or whatever. How do you choose people to collaborate with? Do you just let it evolve, or do you seek people out, or do you just try a bunch of people and go, it felt good with this person or this person, and so we'll do a bit more? Are there people who are dicks who you don't really like that much, potentially, that you can work with because they are so good or so creative? And are there other people who maybe aren't so good, but you just vibe with them so hard that you're like, I want to do more with you?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much exactly it in a nutshell. But what winds up happening, I guess, a lot of the time is if you're talking longevity projects, then the people who are probably a little bit dicky but amazing, you're probably going to be less inclined to play with them after a while, because a lot of it is sitting in a car together. Some jobs you'll be like, I just want to be around some good people, so I'll just do that, and we'll
give up a few skill points for some getting along points.
Yeah, and then there'll be other times when you're like, we have to be on, so let's wheel in the A team, and if they're not necessarily that fun to hang out with, which is to be pretty honest with you, there's not a heap of musos out there that I dislike. Like 95% of the people I know and have played with, I like them as people.
What do you think people need to know about performing artists then? Like, what should people be aware of? What do you think people should know and appreciate about people carving out those kinds of artistic livings and things?
I don't know, man. It's going to sound like the most cliche answer ever, but we're all just people. And I think that's become more obvious, I find now, since smartphones and whatever, with social media and whatnot. You'll see some people who are still presenting as brooding or whatever. I think Casey Chambers is probably a good example. How long have we had smartphones for? 15 years or something?
Thereabouts.
Call it that. Or before that, you only got what the big boy companies told you could see. Your Rolling Stone magazine, your whatever video hits, Time Out, all that sort of stuff.
Beat.
Yep, posters, whatever. It all had to go through somebody to be put out there. Now with social media, so when I say people are just humans, you see Casey Chambers, she just posts like photos of herself. Just here's a shit house shot of me in the lounge room with the dog, dog, and some glamour shots and whatever. But it's all just a big mishmash of, and you're just like, hey, this is just a person who has the same insecurities as we all do, not the same, but the same.
We all have insecurities.
Yeah, we all have insecurities, and it's not this. I don't know. I think the myth of the rock and roll life is probably less now.
Mm-hmm.
But then I guess you look at people like Tash Sultana who are quite young, and maybe it hasn't changed at all. I mean, that's all still. I feel like the young musos are probably still presented in a way that everything was presented, 10 years ago. They probably are told by people to be a little less prolific on social media. Maybe, I don't know.
The younger you are as well, the less chance you've had to have the roller coaster just yet. I suppose. So you ride the wave of being 18, 19, 20 and getting it all, it all picking up for you.
Mm.
Casey Chambers has been up and down God knows how many times. Ditto anybody in their like late 30s or 40s. Those early 20s musicians maybe haven't had all the ups and downs yet, which is why I think it maybe seems a bit strange when like a Justin Bieber goes through it, but then you forget like, well, he was famous when he was like 12 or something.
So odd. I think of Steve Carell when he became famous as an actor, and one of the main interviews I remember from one of the early ones was him just saying, I'm so wrapped that my career took off at whatever he was, 42 or however old he was, 40. Because he said, I know what it is. I guess getting back to the Casey Chambers and that of the world, you after a certain age, you just go, whatever, man. Life is what it is. Like, are you happy? Are you unhappy? This photo of me where I don't have my full face of makeup or my nice shoes on or my good car, like, who cares? Like, I don't care. I'm happy. So,
do you think that's the benefit of the social media changes, that it can't be just about the music anymore? It can't just be about being on MTV or in Rolling Stone, because there are so many outlets. At the same time, people can be like, well, your music's a 7 out of 10, but I like you a 9.5 out of 10. So I'm still on board.
That's how I find. I just got recently told about John Mayer, who I watched a video of him yesterday. I'm going to sound like the most ignorant human in the world. He is an unreal. The guy's a monster musician, huge guitar player. I didn't really know that about him. All I knew was that I hated his music. I don't dig it at all. Yeah. I find it just just really bland. But he's obviously hugely popular. So obviously that's a thing that I don't have in me that 90% of the population has. And someone said to me, you got to follow this guy on Instagram. So I followed him on Instagram. He's very funny.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, cool. I'm into you. I mean, and that's funny too. That it sort of gives everyone's got the power or something like.
Yeah.
It's like that guy on Tinder the other day. I was at a gig. And
the guy on Tinder that I matched with the other day.
Yeah. It's just swiping. Is it left or right to accept? You swipe left, right. You swipe right. Yeah. So this guy's just not, he's talking to his friend. He's not looking at his phone. He's just swiping right.
I saw that video.
Like hundreds of people. I texted the video to a couple of friends of mine, and my buddy Cam, who produces all my music. He,
shout out Cam.
Shout out Cam. He's a legend. He's a real thinker too. And he was like, you know what that guy's doing? He doesn't know he's doing it, but he's putting the power back in his court. He's like he's now, what he's done is everybody has got an invitation to have a look at him. And then when he starts getting some love back, he'll then field those like, nah, like he.
Yeah,
I'm like, I like, Cam, that you have psychoanalyzed that. And it's a good analysis, but I don't think... Maybe the guy does subconsciously. That's why he's doing it. I don't know. I think the guy's just like, I want to get low.
Just maximising my chances here.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about putting stuff on social media and going through the process of liking people, and how maybe you'll listen to a few extra John Mayer songs, give him the benefit of like, he's a good musician and I like him. So I might look for something I couldn't actually listen to. I
don't know if I'll ever like his songwriting, but I love his playing.
Do you feel any pressure in that way around people thinking that about your music, like hearing your music and being like, ugh?
Well, no, I think sucks. The thing is you'd be a fool not to realise that, of course, there's nobody can write a song that 10 out of 10 people are going to go, oh, or maybe not 10, 100 out of 100 people. To write a song that 10 out of 10 people go, that's amazing, that's actually doable, I reckon. But 100 out of 100, you're just not going to do it. Yeah, I write music because I like the music that I write, and I do it for me. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing for people who are fans of your music to hear, because you see videos of Pantera, we do it for the fans, cool. I probably don't have that many fans. So I literally just I write music and record music and put it out there because I like to do it. So it's like, I'm so aware that people go, I hate your music. And I go, well, that's okay, because you don't, I like it, so that's fine.
Does that not feel vulnerable then to you? Because you're like cool with it, or was that a process? Because people are really worried about doing anything, let alone putting material things out into the world, where people go, that sucks. Like, people are really worried about that a lot of the time.
They are. I got, so I'm learning a few different instruments at the moment. I'm playing with Brooke Taylor in her band, a few different things, and I am not excellent at any of them. So I play mandolin, trumpet, harmonica, and a bit of guitar.
I heard some of your first efforts on the trumpet.
Oh, well, yeah, let's say. Oh, there you go. That's a good example.
Yeah.
A good example is... I learnt to play a couple of scales, and I thought, all right, I'm gig ready. I've been given that gene, which is not, I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But as in, my confidence is fine.
Yep.
I have, I'm aware of what it is. And when I pick up the trumpet, and when I did that, if you saw that at Itty Bitty Bar, I would have...
saw it in your lounge room, and I saw it at Itty Bitty Bar.
Oh, that's right. We had, yeah. But I would be like, okay, guys, I've just learnt the trumpet. This is not going to be good, but I'm going to do it. Because, as they say, a gig's worth, 10 rehearsals or whatever. But that's the thing. I sort of go and play, and, Cam came down and saw the gig with Brooke the other day and saw, you know, he's and the guitar player in the band is unreal. I've got no business playing guitar with this guy. This guy's co-tipping. He's unreal. One of the best guitar players you'll ever seen. Cam was like, I could watch that guy play all day. He said the band was great. Brooke was on fire. That drummer's really cool. He goes, and you know, you moved well. And I was like, thanks, Cam.
Your mustache picked up the light beautifully.
So I was like, you know, it is what it is. I should really probably not be out there playing at the level that I am with the skills that I've got, but
Hey, be the worst house in the best street, mate. That's the value proposition right there.
Yeah. So that's it is what it is. So to answer your question, no. When I play music, maybe the vulnerability or the confidence, I got too much confidence, and I was like, "This is what it is. There you go, world. I don't care."
Is that from your parents telling you you're awesome since forever, or at least telling you that even if you're not awesome, we love you regardless?
That's probably more what they did. They never pumped up my tires, but they would always say we love you. So that maybe that's where when I say confidence, I don't mean I'm walking around on stage going woo. I just go like, cool. If you think I'm shit, fine. You know what I think too with playing mandolin, like I said, Johnny Kendall's a monster at mandolin, and I can't play like him, but I can. I do what I do. I'm a solid 7. And I think to myself, in 5 years I'll be a 10, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to not play mandolin live in a band because I'm only 7 now and just miss out on 5 years and then come out in 5 years' time and go, check me out, I'm sick. I'd rather enjoy the next 5 years of playing. So it's the two schools of thought.
I feel like it's a bit more vulnerable to wait and becomes a bigger deal, that the anxiety gets worse if you feel like I've hidden away for 20 years practicing and I'm about to reveal it.
Yeah.
When you just jump out 6 weeks in, you're like, I've literally got nothing to lose. I've been doing this for 6 weeks, like whatever. That's less of a big deal than going 20 years later and being like, this is my first performance. Like if I botch this after 20 years of investment, I'm going to look foolish,
Yeah. And look, unless you're not very, actually not very good.
Who tells you that if you're not good enough?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't get the gig if you're not good enough.
Yep.
So then there's that. If you walk up to an audition and you play, and you just shit. Like I would never go on audition when you saw me play trumpet. I wouldn't have gone to audition for a band. I was doing gigs, pulling it out for one song to just, make a bit of a joke about it. But then you get to a level and it is what it is, and I think the enjoyment that comes from playing music should be sort of enough. So I guess it's just age-old thing, horses for courses, really, I guess.
I know that your mum owned a dancing school. Do you think being around things like that, taking part in athletics and seeing that at 8 years old, even as the fastest 8-year-old, there's a faster 9-year-old and a faster 10-year-old and a faster 12-year-old, and seeing in a dance school that the people dancing as tinies and then the level 1s up to the level 10s or 15-year-olds, like that everyone is getting better, and that the 15-year-old dancers are so much better than the 4-year-old dancers, and the 16-year-old runners are so much faster than the 10-year-old runners. Do you think growing up and having a chance to see all that stuff regularly helps you as well understand that this progression is part of the deal, and I don't mind not being the best because, over time I'm heading in that direction, because that seems like a lesson that not everyone gets. To me, when I meet especially kids and we do work with the kids, they haven't seen enough of you're not that good compared to him. That's okay. He's a bit older, bit bigger, bit faster, been doing it a bit longer. You saw a lot of that. Do you think that subconsciously shapes you to go forward with this kind of confidence to be like, okay, I'll just start and then I'll just move along and I'll get a bit better, and so what?
It's an interesting thought because I just started writing a one-man show last year. I sort of completed it sort of to 80%, and it's called Average, and I based it around the fact, I ran at nationals when I was however old, I can't remember, 17 or 8, I think 17 maybe, and for 400 meter running. And I was probably in the top 3 or 4 fastest 400 metre runners in my age group in Tassie.
Anyone of note was the fastest? Anyone we know?
No.
Kyle Vanderkuyp era?
Yeah. He was 200 metres, wasn't he?
Yeah,
I think,
hurdles.
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 He would have been maybe early 20s when I was 16, 17, I think. But the guys that I ran with were Rob Stewart, Stephen Ray and Sam Jeffries. We were sort of the 4 fastest in our age group or whatever, and we went up to nationals and I ran, from memory, not a great time, but my time was smack bang in the middle. I think it was 2 heats of 8, so 16 runners. And the guy that won, I think I ran like a low 50.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. And the guy that won ran like a 46. And if you don't know anything about athletics, that's about 50 metres, which is a fucking long way.
It's a long way, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the moment where I was like, cool, I'm up there in Tassie and I'm down there in Australia. And I was like, I don't know if I see the point and having this epiphany at that age. I was like, not necessarily, oh, this isn't for me. I was like, no, I really trained hard. I gave this a nudge and I mucked around up there a bit. I probably didn't prepare enough for the race. I probably didn't do myself any favours in that respect. My coach, John Quinn, he's an absolute legend of a bloke. He got the shits with me for being a bit of a pest amongst the other athletes.
Shout out John Quinn. He is a lovely guy.
He's a ripper. And and so I was like, cool, I'm not going to make up, even if I did everything and more. Like I might have been able to make up 1 second, but I'm not going to make up 4 seconds. I was like, there's no point doing this. Pick your battles. I rode in this thing that was like a selection squad for the Olympics, and this was more a stupidity thing actually, but this is a good story for my dad. Went into the final interview to get, to be selected in, the 12 people that get taken away or whatever. And the guy gets to the end of the interview and he goes, look, I'll just ask you this one last thing. He goes, would you rather row for Australia in the Olympics or play AFL football for Collingwood? And I was like, ooh. And I thought about it, and I like, what an idiot!
Oh, yeah.
like wrong answer.
Yeah.
It was 2 seconds in, wrong answer.
Yeah.
But then I thought, oh no. So, and then I go, AFL footy would probably be. He goes, that's all we need to know. Thanks, mate. We walked out of there, and Dad just sort of looked at me, and he goes, that was probably the wrong answer, mate. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well,
they're asking if you want to row for Australia.
Are you kidding? I'm like, nah. And he's like, it's cool, man. He goes, you answered it honestly. You thought about it, and you stupidly, you thought about it and said that. And he said, that's cool.
And in the end, no rowing for Australia and just playing footy for the Rock Dogs.
Yeah, that's about as athletic as I've gotten. But I don't know. I just find the thought of, this is what the show's about, Average. It's about, do you find happiness in... I had this discussion with a mate of mine who's a successful music manager, and he's got a couple of artists on there who are doing great guns. And he said he watched that guy, who's one of the richest guys in the world, a US guy, really...
Elon Musk.
Can't think of his name. Anyway, this guy has this 25 rule. You write out the 20 things that you want to do most in your life. And then you Warren Buffett. You pick out 5, and you literally delete the other 15. You just focus on the 5. And he said he found that really helpful. And I was like, I get that, and I understand that. And getting to the top of your game in anything, as my dad used to say to me, if you're the best in the world at tiddlywinks, that's unreal. That's what you should be striving for. And I sort of have the thought that maybe that isn't what we should all be trying to do. Maybe we should just be enjoying, obviously do things to a level, give something a crack. Don't just go, I want to do karate, and then 3 weeks later go, oh, karate shit. I'll give it a nudge. If you want to do it, give it a nudge. Hang in there, do something. See it through to some sort of extent. But to be the best javelin thrower in the world and dedicate 10 years of your life to just doing that, I don't know if that's going to bring happiness. It will obviously bring opportunity, of course, in some respects. But at what sacrifice? What are you sacrificing to be the best at something which may not necessarily fulfill, I don't know, once again, just as I get older, I go, obviously family, emotional connection to people, no matter what, where it is or what it is. Like, I went through some anxiety after Guthrie was born, just through being exhausted, really. No sleep, gigging, probably drinking too much at gigs as well. And when I started getting that anxiety, the thing that I was craving most in the world obviously was rest, but was emotional connection to people. So that was the thought that came with the idea of the show Average. There's lots of funny stuff in there obviously as well too that's happened to me over my life. It's sort of a bit of a self-indulgent look at some funny moments and whatever, but
it's a weird concept, because I don't think people who are the best probably get enough kudos for being the best at stuff, because it's so hard to make that last 5-10% jump to the best. That last few seconds, that last half a second between the very, very best. The difference between Usain Bolt and the guy that runs 9.9 is legacy, and just another guy who makes up the heat in the finals, and no one knows who he is. Fastest guy in his country, maybe on the continent, still not the one guy that we all know. But I don't think that should put people off having a crack, because you don't want to do karate for a week and go, karate sucks because I'm not immediately good at it. But when I look at it, and I guess the way that I've always tried to do things as well, given that, had a crack at a bunch of different stuff and tried to do reasonably well. As I look at someone like you and you go, I'm not that good. I'm not as good as Dion at guitar. You go, yeah, but can Dion run a 55-second 400? You go, no. You're like, okay, well there you go. Like, and can Dion cut and edit a video? You go, no. And
he probably could, but yeah,
whatever. But he's got a bunch of other things that he can do that you can't do, and he's better than you at this, and you're better at this. And if you add up all the different things that you're competent at, that you put time into, you start to make up ground that way. So you meet someone who is like a virtuoso on the piano, and maybe they've never, this is unlikely, but in music in particular, but maybe they've never touched another thing. And you're like, okay, you're a 10 out of 10 on the piano, and I'm a 7 on the guitar, but I'm also a 6 on the trumpet and a 6 on the mandolin, and I'm probably a 4 on the drums, and I can mix music live if I need to, and so I'm more practical maybe in that sense, or more versatile, or I see the world differently through the lens of all these other skills that I have. And yeah, I'm not the best at any of them, but now I bring a perspective to the table that is not just a person that can do this one thing, but a person that's done all these other things as well. And that is like what gives you the chance to manufacture other opportunities that the person who's only knows javelin can't do, because they only know javelin.
Well, I was listening to this podcast the other day. I can't remember who with. It was a psychologist and somebody else. I can't remember. This psychologist, I can't remember the terminology he used to describe the two reasons that people do things, and one is like external and internal, whatever the words are. They talk about why you do something. So, like, because it was linked to social media and whatnot. So, if people want the photo and the reason they're doing something is because they want to impress people, the probability of there being happiness in that is quite slight, as opposed to somebody who does something because it makes them feel good. So, the person that just plays the piano because they like playing the piano. They don't want to be the best piano player in the world. They just actually like the feeling that it gives them when they play the piano. And I think I'm probably more drawn to that style of person. Like, I play the mandolin. Of course, I want to be decent when I go and play on stage, but I play because I enjoy it. I like playing the mandolin for me. I'm not trying to be the best. I don't want to have a video of me doing some shred solo that nobody else can do.
You're also pretty self-aware in that you're not walking out going, I'm ace, and then getting canned like those people on Australian Idol. You're pretty aware if you are good or not that good, and where you are good and where you're not that good. And I think in Australia in particular, maybe we're not so great at letting people say, oh, I'm ace at this. If you say, oh, I'm not very good, everyone goes, no, you're great. And then if you go, oh, I'm the best at this, people are like, you're a knob. Why are you talking like that? And so if we just let people actually get a chance to feel it out and work out where they really are, so they're not standing up in an Australian Idol audition and bombing because they are actually terrible and everyone's told them they're okay, that helps you navigate that process too. You're like, I'm not that good, but I know how not good I am, so if you thereabouts agree, I agree.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Where do we go?
Yeah, it's totally not a problem. It's not a shocking fall from grace thing for me to find out now that everyone in my tiny little family has been like, yeah, Craig, you're great at the mandolin. You're so good at it. And then you go into public and everyone's like, dude, do not do that. Yeah, what are you doing? You're like, yeah, my mum's always overly nice about stuff, so I've got to whack a couple of points off what she thinks. And then these guys are overly critical, so I take it with a grain of salt. But I know I'm somewhere in the middle there. That's fine. So that honesty with yourself, I feel like that's powerful in terms of being able to do things that you enjoy and then present them to the world and be like, I did this thing. Yeah, I reckon it's a 7 or a 6.5. But you agree, what do you guys reckon? And I'm going to try for a 7 or a 7.5 on the next one, or consolidate a few things.
Maybe that's what I should call my next album.
7 out of 10.
A solid 7.
Solid 7.
Yeah.
It's good that you are prepared to put those things out there. I Lost My Way. Tune. Good video clip.
Cheers, man.
It's all up. It's all out there. We'll link the things through for everybody to check it out. And you touched on it before. Young son Guthrie.
Yeah.
Shout out to Guthrie, who's got no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah.
None. Being looked after.
Yeah.
And mum, Georgie. Legend. Tell us about I Lost My Way. Well, you losing your way. It's weird when I say it. But.
Well, no, it was just that. So, like I said, Guthrie was born. I lived my life exactly the same. I was going to the gym, lifting heavy weights, like Olympic lifting, CrossFit. You know what it is. Obviously, some people don't know what it is. It's a Olympic lifting style workout crossed with body weight movement stuff.
And Craig trains like a beast.
Well, so I went pretty hard. And when Guthrie was born, obviously I was playing music full time, and you drink beers and whiskey and stuff at gigs and whatever. And I don't know, for the first at least 12 weeks, you just don't sleep. You do sort of 2 or 3 hour blocks, and they wake up and whatever. And so I'd get home from gigs, and Georgie and I would split the feeding. She'd do a boob feed, and then I'd do a bottle feed or whatever. And then basically after 3 months of that, or 4 months of living exactly the same way, I had a middle ear incident, and I was at a gig, stone cold sober, down in San Remo, and I just was spinning out of control. So I went out the front, and I wound up vomiting everywhere, and they had to call an ambulance, and I got taken to the hospital, and they said, it's probably a bit of calcium or something in your ear. We don't know what, it's just a middle ear incident. What's going on in your life? And I said, I've got a kid. And they were like, you just need to take it easy. And I was like, cool. So for 2 days, I just rested and didn't do anything. And I had a bit of anxiety then, but I didn't know what anxiety was. It felt to me like an overwhelming sense of doom. So then I went back to the gym like 2 days later and just got straight into a clean and jerk workout, a heavy clean and jerk workout. And I left the gym, and for the next 48 hours, if you clapped behind me, I would have jumped through the roof. Like I just couldn't work out what it was. And then I couldn't breathe. I couldn't take a breath, like a full breath. I just felt like this thing on my chest.
Tight chest.
And then got to Christmas. So Guthrie was born in July, and then this was at Christmas time. So 5 months later?
Yeah, 5 months.
I just sort of, in the safety of my home with my beautiful wife Georgie around me and mum and dad, and I just sort of, not collapsed, but like really just, I'd have dizzy spells, and I was just exhausted, and like the anxiety was full on, like just a sense of emptiness.
So a sense that like what's the point sense, rather than a like there's heaps to do sense. It was not like anxiety about stuff that needs to happen. It was like
it wasn't necessarily a depression. It was more just like the thought of having to do stuff.
Yep.
Really almost debilitated me. Like, we had to go and do stuff. We built a house down there, and we had to go and do some stuff on a fence. Like, to build this fence, I'd do in in a heartbeat. But down there, Dad I was sort of basically useless as a trying to help him. I was just exhausted. Yeah. And it took a little while to be able to work out what it was. And Georgie was amazing. She scooped me up and carried me for those couple of weeks at least with the little fella, because it's hard having a little baby and all the things that go along with that. And then I spoke to one of her friends, a psychologist, who basically said, and then I worked out it was exhaustion and I needed to rest, and I stopped going to the gym because I was finding the anxiety was the worst after lifting heavy, and so I stopped doing that. And then, however long later, when I spoke to this psychologist, she just said, look, also too, it could be a perfect storm of, and Dad said this as well, as the age I'm at, obviously having a baby, it's a big life-changing thing, but also too, they mentioned the mourning of your former self. So me going, right, I actually probably need to accept the fact that instead of staying out late after gigs or whatever, I need to go home. And you know what? I don't need to go to the gym 5 days a week. I used to train Monday to Friday and have Saturday, Sunday off. And they're like, you don't need to do that necessarily, And then now here I am, Guthrie's 2.5.
And training at an intensity that was high. It's
pretty
not
high
just doing
intensity.
Something. You're like having a
it's heavy. Well, it was heavy weights. I got back into exercising about 3 months, 12 weeks after. When I stopped exercising, I'd still do light. I'd go down and I'd go for a jog. Yeah. That's fine. That didn't bring on anxiety at all. But lifting weights did. Mm-hmm. And then I spoke to my friend Rose. She was studying sports science at the time, and she did a little bit of research and was like, lifting heavy weights over your head, if you've got anxiety, if you've got depression, obviously I think they say exercise is probably on the preferred list. And then with anxiety, anything aerobic is positive, but anything heavy, and especially anything heavy over your head, which is what all I was doing,
just that
is
central nervous system
overloading. Yeah. So it was a lot of that. I don't know, when I heard the term mourning your former self, I was like, that sort of struck a chord with me, because I was like, yeah, I do probably need to change. I don't have to change the way I live or anything, but I just need to make some adjustments, and I need to. Self-preservation's, key. And Georgie sort of taught me a lot about that. And, I started meditating, and I don't necessarily do that much anymore, but I have, through doing 3 to 6 months of it, I've sort of got that. It sounds dumb, but it's sort of it's a skill set now.
It's an option.
It's an option. I don't need my tape anymore. I know what to do. Just breathing. So not like, fully, a Buddhist monk.
You're not wearing robes and
no.
trekking off.
But
to
as
the
in, the ability to come
Find
back to the
space.
breath and find space and calm is an important tool to have. But once again, I feel like you don't need it necessarily when you're 27. But as you get older and things change, I sort of think that those skills or those thoughts are probably quite important.
And you update your internal bio from full-time musician and late-night party guy during the weekend and the weekends to husband and father and guy who does this job as well and is sociable, but that's not who I am anymore. Like,
yeah, and it's okay too. Like I hang out, I train. I haven't had a kick for a while actually, but with the boys down in St Kilda, they have a thing called the Kick, and there's a lot of older musicians there whose kids are between 8 and 18 or whatever. And you see people's lives go semi-back to normal. We don't have any family here. Our family are in Perth and Tassie. So it's just a little bit of that as well, like, carrying the load together and whatnot. And it's nice to see people that when their kids are a bit older, a bit more independent, okay, cool, life does go back. You do get that time back. Mm-hmm. It is an intense couple of years. And like I said, he's 2.5. It won't be long. And, it's been really great. Doing what I do, playing music or, shooting stuff or acting or whatever, it's a bit of a fruit bowl of life in the way of structure and security. But what it has enabled both Georgie and I to have is like all that time with our son. It's been unreal. Mm-hmm. So, that's been good. But yeah, the song I wrote, it wasn't a long time, and I always feel I have absolute empathy for people that have suffered horrendous anxiety or depression or whatever for long periods of their time, because I've been blessed to never have had any mental health issues until then, which is what Georgie said, might have been the reason it was so heavy for me, because I was just like, what is going on?
Floodgates just opened up.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this? What are these feelings? What is this? It wasn't a huge chapter of my life, but it was an intense chapter, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I never thought I'd say it, but I'm so glad that it happened, because I'm now aware of other people's plight. You can go, oh, yeah, you've got a kid, a baby, that must be hard with no sleep. And you're like, thanks for saying that, because to say that because that's what you should say. That's what society says you should say. But until you've lived it, you don't actually understand. It's not that big a deal, no sleep, or apparently it is. But yeah, you don't understand stuff until you've been through it. So I guess in that respect.
Did you find it, sometimes when I chat to men in particular about this kind of stuff, and fathers and with young kids and the first kids, and because it's a very transformative time in anyone's life to have a family. You're in Tassie and you're having this moment, for all intents and purposes, like a breakdown in your ability to cope with everything just at that time. And Georgie, your wife, picks up the slack, and you've got this kind of, well, it's not kind of, Guthrie's helpless at this point. Kids are useless for quite a few years. They can't do anything. When I chat to other young fathers and they have these transformative experiences, whether it looks like anxiety or does these things, sometimes what comes up is this secondary shit feeling, which is like, I'm in the middle of this. Also, I feel bad that like I've got the two of the people I love the very most in the whole world are having to just cop this, or I'm being a bit of a burden to them. I'm making it, like, I'm certainly not making it easier for everybody at the moment, but being this way. Did you find that you had that sort of secondary, you've got the thing that you're experiencing, then the people stepping up around you and doing those things, and then a secondary like, I have a feeling like I'm not wrapped, that everyone has to step up around me, which then later on, like when people punch through it, you're like, I'm so glad everyone did. It means the world to me. But in that moment that you kind of feel a bit worse that you're in that position or putting people in that position. Yeah,
but like, again, with the confidence thing, I don't know why, but like Georgie was like my new favourite superhero. She was unreal, because I mean, the thing that I found the hardest was when we'd sort of split the mornings, for argument's sake. So Georgie'd do 4 mornings a week and I'll do 3. Well, when we were in Tassie, she just did all of them, because I couldn't get to sleep with the anxiety. And then once I did sleep, I'd be exhausted in the morning, and she'd just get up and do it. And because she just knew that rest was, I don't know, man, it's like her nurturing quality. I don't know. She allowed me, the way she is, allowed me and gave me the confidence to go, okay, you've got this. She's had bouts with her friends, they all call it the black dog through... They just say, I got a bit of the dog or whatever. And I just never got it. I was like, I don't understand what you... So I'd sort of do what I could during those small little bouts before... This is way before Guthrie was born. To be like, supportive or whatever. And then watching her when I was the way I was like, oh man. Because she, she sort of had brushes with that sort of thing before. So just talking to her the whole time and whatnot, I don't know. She made it very easy for me to be able to get back on the horse. It didn't, like I said, I mean, probably 3 months of like one intense month, and then for the next 2 after that, sort of, having moments. Yeah, I owe her a lot. I mean, I don't owe her. She would never expect me to owe her a lot, but as in,
on the ledger.
I learnt so much from her during that time. And yeah, that secondary thought of being a dead weight for people in moments, of course it was there, but I don't know, maybe I just trusted that their love for me, being that, mum and dad once again too, I just was like, you know what, they've got me, I'm cool. I can...
Yeah, that's good. Also for the people doing the help, and when you are the person helping and when you're doing that, most of the time people not relish the opportunity, but people are grateful to be able to be one of those people that can help someone. But when you're in a bad space and you get a bit of that burdensome vibe, that can be difficult. And so I think it's important to talk about like the dip in there where sometimes you go, oh, I'm being too much for everybody, and go, that's not the case. And if you just hang in there for a bit, or you allow yourself to be helped, or you allow people to care for you and step up a little bit, then they also appreciate that as you would if it was the other way around and things. And people like yourself who feel very comfortable in the support that they've got tend to deal with the issues much quicker and better, because you can relax into the help, let people do the help, let it happen and actually get better, and then move ahead. That's an important part of the process. Not just that the help's there, but you help people know that it's okay, and that the help stays when you're being a pain in the ass or not. And it's I think like your testament to the fact that if you can settle into that and trust that the help's there, that you get better. Like it helps the process move along. Yeah. For everybody.
Yeah, and you've got to do your part, and that's all you've got to do. If you can trust the help's there, you've got to do. You don't just kick back and go, oh, everybody's helping. I can just kick back and do nothing. Like obviously, I was very active with obviously meditation and trying to talk to as many people about it as I could, and that all helped. And
definitely helps. And people like to see that you're also in it with them as well, and that you're like, I'm trying, but. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on. This is the first time this has happened. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to try, but I also don't know what I'm doing. So just let's all do this together and see what comes of it, and then I'll go write a new album once it's all done. And
yeah, well, that song was probably that's sort of it for me. I feel like regarding that, I mean, there'll be flavors of the experience lyrically, probably in other pieces or other songs, but that song Lost My Way, that was a project with Cam, I don't know, musically with Cam, trying to explore anxiety in sound, which may or may not have may or may not have come off, but the video clip was like raw. I wanted it to be raw and really not slick and just kind of a bit rough around the edges, and
grainy.
Just what it was, I guess. And writing music can be therapeutic, and I felt once I put that out, I was like, yeah, I feel that's some
close the book.
Yeah, close the book, but it's still there. All those feelings are still, yeah. Like I said, it's nice to have gone through it, to know what other people have gone through, and that, I don't know, listening. My skill set of listening is more equipped now. It's not just shit house, mate. Yeah, well, listen, maybe you should just go for a run. Not helpful,
The gift of tough times is that it should open your eyes to the tough times of others.
Yeah,
it's really what it should do.
Yeah,
the gift is that I understand how difficult these things can be afterwards. So when you go through an experience, if you take that attitude, I think that's a very productive, beneficial way that serves you, exponentially in the long term. To take that and go, yeah, I had a thing, now I get it. And that's good. And I keep an eye open in a slightly different way, and I'm prepared to engage in a slightly different way. And that's a really positive side effect of going through a tough time and coming out okay, instead of just going. Because the other option is that you hear sometimes, I went through it and I got out okay, so just do it.
Yeah,
which isn't helpful. Yeah, it's not very helpful, and it's not very empathetic or understanding. So this record with Cam, did you write the whole thing with Cam?
No, I wrote it with a whole bunch of different people, but I recorded it with Cam. Yeah, but it was over 4 years. I released four EPs, and then 3 new songs, and I just collected the songs that I liked the most off each EP, and the 3 new ones, which worked out to be 13 songs, and put them on an album because they were all recorded with Cam. I got them remastered together. It doesn't feel like a compilation album.
Yep.
A compilation of no hits.
greatest no hits.
Greatest songs.
There are some rippers.
Oh yeah, no mate, I'm very proud of the album. Yeah, I'm very proud of the album. I'm very proud of the musicians that played on it.
What's it called?
It's called "And There Was Found No Place for Them." That was named by Cam, actually, the producer, my very good buddy Cam McKenzie.
That'll go out into record stores.
Yeah, it'll go into independent record stores. Yep. Yeah, so I'll get I want to sit down and have a glass of whiskey and sit there with Georgie and listen to it on a record myself. So that's
awesome.
Sort of, and once again, it's that sort of average thing where it's like I'm not trying to create a number one hit or a huge selling album. It's like no, this is cool. It's a bit of in inverted commas art, and it is what it is, and this makes me happy. So. And I'm proud of it, so it is what it is,
They're nice moments in time to have as well, that you can reflect on as you go. All those albums and EPs and big gigs and things like that, you go, yeah, cool. Yeah. Even if no one else cares, they're nice little moments in my life that I've got little markers as I move along.
Yeah, everybody's got that guy that comes second to Usain Bolt where you just go, no one knows or gives a shit, about about whatever work you've put into whatever, so... your nearest and dearest do, but that's about it. Yeah. And, what is fame anyway, and why is that something that people strive to or feel like they need in this day and age through things like social media and whatnot? It's sort of unnecessary and a big topic to bring up at what is probably the end of this chat.
Well, it's we're getting there, but there is an argument that all the social media stuff is vacuous, and I probably subscribe to that a lot of the time. There's a lot of useless drivel that's on there. But at the same time, it gives you an opportunity to do things to help people along the way. Mm. And you already do stuff like Songs in the South to give people a chance and meet and introduce people in the real non-digital world and give people a chance to still connect as human beings.
Yeah, but also for me, it's sort of a necessary evil in that that's where I get sort of all my news from. It's a wonderful tool crossed with, if used well, it's unreal. If careless, it can be... I find that can bring on anxiety, just the light of the phone, playing an app. If I fiddle around with that too much, like before going to bed, it wires me more for sleep, in a negative way.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas if I just turn off Duolingo and put my phone away and read a book.
Yeah.
I'll be, I don't know, getting back to that connection thing. I guess, I don't know.
It's true, though. There's obviously positives and negatives to all those things. It really depends on how you use it and how sucked into it you are. I get sucked into it. And that external and internal validation. Like, are you playing chess because you enjoy it? Sure. But are you putting up photos to get people to like it so that you feel validated? Yeah. I mean, they're different things. Yeah, and sharing artwork that matters to you and doing things because you think it'll maximize the number of ticks you get. They're different uses for the same.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Same medium.
Yeah.
What advice would you give? We've got two elements to the question to people who want to help creative people feel like they're doing a good job and support them in their creative endeavours. And then also, what advice would you give to people who are around someone who is maybe having like a darker moment, an anxious moment in their life, a transitional time in their life, about what to sort of be aware of and how they can better improve the quality of life for these people as well?
What would I say to someone? Yeah, that's hard. Probably be asking them what's their situation, where they're at, because I think before you sort of offer any sort of words of encouragement or whatever, it's really important to know where somebody's at.
To tell people to just ask more questions.
Well, that's the only way you're going to get an understanding of what that person's going through, because like I said, I experienced what I experienced, but what I did to fix myself or to aid myself getting better might not translate or be relevant to somebody else's spot. So I really don't know what I'd say, but I mean, what I would say, I'm sorry to be annoying, but it would depend on what they said to me.
Just show up and care, and then go from there.
I think show up and care is probably absolutely the first port of call, and genuine connection, genuine emotional connection to someone is probably the way you're going to connect.
Yep. Invest some time into caring about people properly, so they feel like you do. Yeah. Because it's hard. It's also hard when people, like a stranger, tries to create a deep connection with you on the spot, like the drunken D&Ms at a pub or whatever.
Weird. Yeah, it feels odd. Yeah.
Better that people put in sort of consistent time.
I had a thing when I was in Tassie a few months back. My mum's friend's partner was going through some stuff, and just talking to them about what they were going through was a positive but a weird experience, because I could hear the fear in their voice. And I guess the thing that Georgie said to me, which, like I said, might not be relevant to other people, but she kept saying to me early on, it's okay. This is not you. This is something you're going through at the moment, and you are okay, and it's going to be okay. And you just need to let that simmer, just let that thought be there the whole time. And another thing a good friend of mine, Sarah Gurry, said to me once was, when I rang her when I was in Tassie, and I was like, because I knew that a couple of my friends had experienced anxiety, so I rang Cam and I rang Sarah, because I knew they'd gone through it.
Yep.
And both of them were fantastic. Both of them gave me excellent. Cam gave me quite pragmatic advice, and Sarah gave me quite, spiritual, emotional advice. And Sarah said to me, when she had experienced things like that, she was like, it's only as big as, she'd repeat to herself, it's only as big as you make it, so make it small. And that was something that sort of really resonated with me too. And Bobby Valentine's partner, Robin, she was down in Tassie. They came and spent New Year's Eve with us, and she'd actually just come back from a seminar where, like a meditation seminar, and she gave me some advice too. She was like, this guy talks about like moments, reflecting moments, and thinking about things that you're grateful for and that you love, and people that love you. So I would go and find a little spot, and I'd just close my eyes and try and picture a beautiful scene, whatever it was, the view from there or the view from here or whatever made you happy. You just sort of go through and give thanks to these people. So you'd reel off names in your head, and just, I don't know, that had an immense calming, little things like that. And talking to people, obviously, when I talk to these people, I didn't know Robin that well, and that bit of advice she gave me was unreal. That was before meditating. That was like when I was absolutely ill-equipped and no idea what I was going through. I knew it was anxiety because I googled the chest thing, and
yeah, WebMD had told me.
Yeah. You can give people those things, but if as I said, if it's not where they're at the moment, then it might not resonate. But they did resonate with me, so I found those quite helpful. I think thinking about people you love, like, once again, getting back to emotional connection, that's paramount. That's where you probably will. I think when we were talking today after training in the park, and you were saying if you feel like you've got no one around you that you can rely on, that's a really big problem. So if you close your eyes and you actually can't think of people that you are grateful for or that you love and love you, you're in a bit of trouble. So
yeah, and you can be surrounded by people and not trust that they're there, that they're going to show up for you when you need them, or that they're going to be able to give you the help that you need as well. And I think we need to be mindful of just surrounding people with people that aren't invested emotionally. You've got a great support network of people who, with great track record of showing up, with a lot of time in your parents and your wife and old friends, and you're one of the people that I know that has like a great collection of very old friends as well, which is testament to how good of a friend you are. But when you've got those people around, you think, okay, cool, they're here, they can help, they're equipped to help, they understand, I trust that is as important as just having people around you, because sometimes having people around you who aren't necessarily prepared to do the right thing, who maybe won't get in the trenches with you, can actually make you feel a bit more isolated because you're alone in a sea of people. So, to speak to what you were saying about your advice for other people, to make sure that person doesn't feel like you're not going to show up, that you're not just there in presence or by saying a few pithy things, but you're actually there, follow up, or you need something, or of course, or if I need to go talk to someone, like I know that people would call Georgie or and be like, Craig's not okay or something, and that, and so you can be like, even if I'm having a bad time, people got an eye out for me, and there's people there at the other end of that are willing to step up and do the work as well. I trust that, so I'll lean into it a little bit and not fall forward at the table when there's a group of people behind you, ready to catch you. I think that's important, and it all comes back to paying attention and being there all the time for people as well. We're nearly done.
Yep.
This is a bit of a corny one, but what inspires you?
People having a crack at whatever it is they're doing. I don't know. Yeah, people who are doers, no matter what it is they do. I find people that are just out there having a bit of a crack, that inspires me.
This question, I can tell you straight up, I think we're, 8 or something episodes in, and it's been a failure, but I'm going to hang in there because I'm going to call the season 10 episodes. So, abs or kebabs?
Yeah, I'm going to probably go with kebabs, I reckon.
Kebabs are pretty ace.
Yeah, I'm just not an ab kind of guy. I've got abs. I don't really have abs, I'm like... And to get the abs so that I could see them, what I'd have to go through, I just couldn't be bothered.
Just not prepared.
I like whiskey and beer and toast, all that stuff that is not good for, sourdough bread.
So good. How do you know if you're doing a good job?
You're doing a good job if you get asked to do it again, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
That's fair. I mean, that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, if you do something for someone and they come back to you again, then you've probably done something that has pleased them for whatever reason.
You can pass a law right now. What do you pass?
Pass a law? Jeepers creepers, man. I really don't know. I'd have to think about it.
I mean, there's live music, annoying laws that you could...
Oh, you know what? You've just spoon-fed me one. Yeah. I'd pass a law saying... Yeah, I would. So, okay, so here's my beef. If you can't play live music after 11, that's fine. No problem, right? So we play in pubs. The neighbours complain at 11:02. Get it. No problem. We will finish at 11. When they ring up and complain at 9:30, I just want to go, hey, the law says, like, if the council comes around to my house with a jackhammer at 6 or whatever the law is, 7 in the morning, at 7:01, they can jackhammer the shit out of my house at 7:01, like next to the house.
Yeah.
And I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So that's fine because that's the law. The law says 7. So the law, I think it's 7 till 11. You can do, or 7 till 10, whatever it is. We get people complaining at 9:30. I'm like, sorry, pal, that should be off the table.
Yeah.
You should be able to play a Marshall stack in a pub if you want, but you can't.
You can't. It's a bit late now because most of these things have happened, but the law 10 years ago should probably have been something along the lines of, if you move next to a pub, shut up.
Yeah.
Don't complain about the music at the pub that you just moved to the corner of Ackland Street and Barclay Street in St Kilda where there's literally pubs everywhere. Don't complain about the noise immediately after you move in there.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the place.
Yeah.
That is annoying.
So that would be the law. Pass that, even if they brought the hour down to 10 or whatever. Or
bump it up to 12 and just hold it there.
Well, I mean, look, I can understand somebody at Sunday night, at 11 o'clock.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But hey, 10 o'clock, no, man, sorry. If you go to bed at 10:02 and wake up at 6 a.m., you've had your 8 hours sleep. That's good enough, isn't it?
That's enough.
Yeah.
What's your favourite way to just be nice?
Treat, like old mate Eminem says, to just be nice. I guess try your best to just greet people with a smile and be try to be as open as you can. And we all have moments where you are going through whatever it is you're going through at the time, which will close you off to other people. But I think trying to be aware of, that non-judgy thing and just, if you can, the look of somebody might not be exactly what you're feeling like encountering at the moment, then try and overlook that for a little bit, but it's hard.
Just deal with it.
Yeah.
Time now for you to give everyone the lowdown on where they can find you.
Find me. I'm on
Delsinki.com.
It's like Helsinki with a D, so it's Delsinki. A lot of people say Delsinki, which is bizarre because I'm basically dyslexic. And I'm like, it's like Del, like it's the first 3 letters are Del, D-E-L. But people are like, oh, yeah, Delsinki. And I'm like, that would be DL, wouldn't it? DLIN. It's, yeah, they missed the E. Yeah, Delsinki.com. And I'm on, Facebook and Instagram as Delsinki.
So you can just look up there. And will you update about all these other additional projects on there? Get a little shout out through there. Keep an eye on the stories and stuff.
Yeah, the music stuff is all...
Can't talk about stuff that doesn't have a name yet, so you and Brooke need to sit down and get a name together.
Yeah. Oh, well, Brooke, when I play with Brooke, her bands, that's Brooke Taylor. You can go to brooketaylormusic.com.au for her stuff. But that's, I just play in the live band. But, all the other stuff is what it is, man. I just float along and do bits and bobs for people and,
Just kill it.
Well...
No, you do, mate. You do a great job. I think... I feel privileged to have come into your presence and...
Ditto, man. And I would have liked to have talked more about what we were talking about after the park session today with what you do with Just Be Nice, because I feel I haven't understood the full gamut of what it is you got. I mean, I know roughly what Just Be Nice is, but some of the stuff you were explaining to me today, it would have been nice to talk about that because, that's great stuff. And I too feel very privileged to know you and the work you do is amazing. So
thanks, man. Well, man, legend. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Shout out to Guthrie and Georgie for looking after him while we do the business.
I've got to be at home in 27 minutes.
Legend. We've just snuck it in. Man, thanks very much.
Rock and roll.
Cheers. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. If you did enjoy it, we would really appreciate it if you could share it with others that you think might also enjoy it. Check out the show notes to find out more. Like, subscribe, maybe even give us a rating if it's a good one. Remember that we care. You matter. Have an amazing day. And as always, just be nice.